This is the Paleobiology Database, and I find it really fascinating. Learn, data, join and support. Go to data and go to visualize. And here is a map of the Earth with locations of fossils. But I want you to look at Alabama, because it's really important to relate science to students' everyday lives. And there's a lot of stuff fossil-wise or prehistoric life-wise going on where we live. So here is Alabama, and it's showing you all these colors, and it doesn't look like there's a lot of sense to it, but I'm going to show you something really cool. Like when you click in this Paleozoic region, it shows you what was alive during that time period. You can even go like what was alive during the Cambrian period, and it shows you over here on the right what kinds of things were living, because these are the fossils we found. And you can kind of go through time and see as it changes what kinds of creatures have been found in Alabama that the scientists say were fossils living during different time periods. So the Triassic period doesn't show any reptiles living, or they may have lived in Alabama, but doesn't show any fossils of them. Jurassic, no fossils of things from that time period. But then when we get to the Cretaceous, look what happens. So there are all these fossils. The green means it's one of these time periods, and the more yellow ones mean it's like a late time period, I guess, in this 66 million years ago sort of a thing. After the dinosaurs died out, I guess. All right, so you see the pattern that there were all kinds of fossils found along here. Now, watch what happens when I go from Cretaceous, where I am now, and we've got all these little like fish and worms and snails and oysters and different little like watery things living right there. Watch what happens when I click on this one. And then this one. All right, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to zoom out just a tad. Let's go back to Jurassic. Nothing's going on. Don't know why. And I'm going to click this one and then this one. Okay, so nothing early Cretaceous, but by the late Cretaceous, we've got all these sea creatures living in Alabama in this curvy line. And then what happens? And then. Observation and inference. What can you infer from this observation? And here, in whatever this time period is, we've got little horses and little creepy crawly carnivores and little, land animals down here in Florida. Prior to that, up above that, like in South Alabama, we had more sea creatures, fishies and oysters and snails. And before that, up even higher, we had sea creatures. Isn't that cool? Now what you can do here is, if you're interested in knowing more about what was found there, like let's find something that was really close to Auburn, like this little guy. You can click on that dot and it tells you that there's a bin of fossils. And you can click on that. And when you click on this collection number, it opens up another location and shows you what was in that bin. So when I click on one of these dots, let's click on one that's near Auburn. let's click on this dot. So it's something that was living during this time period, Cretaceous, late Cretaceous. It tells me that there were 4 different collections taken from that site. And if I click on that, it gives me a collection number. And then I can click on the collection number and I get the actual county and the coordinates. After you click on the number and you get a bin and you click on the bin, you can click on another thing that tells you exactly where those fossils were collected, what the actual coordinates are. Tells you that it was the Utah Formation and how old those fossils are supposed to be, what it was like there. It was a reef. It was sandy. It was brackish. It was an oyster reef. So right south of Auburn, there was an oyster reef. So then when we go back to the main map, we think, there was an oyster reef right down here. I could actually put those coordinates in Google Maps and find out where to go dig and get me some, fossilized oysters. But what's really interesting is if there was an oyster reef right there south of Auburn, and then if we move forward in time, it looks like the water was receding. It was receding until, and it's still watery here, still watery. So there was a shoreline right here. And so everything south of this part of Alabama was the ocean. And, Auburn was a seaside community 66 million years ago. And then that shifted south over time. I went to Google Maps and I put in the coordinates for that fossil bin, and I get this dot on the map, which you can see is straight south of Opelika. And then I can click on the satellite image and zoom in on where those fossilized oysters were. Somebody was out in this field of trees digging up oysters. So that's the Paleobio Database, and I showed you the example of finding oysters south of Auburn because I have a challenge for you. And I want you to learn this is, unless you're a chemistry ed student, you may end up teaching earth science. And plus it's just interesting. I have a challenge for you on the next page, and it's to use this database to analyze data to answer a scientific question. So inquiry is using data to answer a question, not like looking up the answer in a book or looking up the answer on a website, but collecting some data and then using that data to answer a question that's not, say, so easily answerable. So that's going to be your next challenge.